Welcome back to Sports Talk. Doug Miles, Don Henderson with you. And Don, a special guest today that I know you go back a few years with, back with the old 76er days. Of course, he's the founder and the vice president of the Orlando Magic. We're joined today by Pat Williams. Pat, thanks for being with us. How are you?
It's nice to be on with both of you, and yes, Don and I go way back, way back. Probably too many years that we like to forget, but way back deep into the Philadelphia days, Don, and you become a Floridian now. It's wonderful to hear your voice.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fun, but and when we say the old 76ers, I really hate to say that because we had some great teams that we worked with in those days that you put together, and just a lot of fun experiences and a lot of fun people.
No question. Well, it's nice to join you tonight. I'm glad we can visit.
And Pat has written another great book, and it's called Coach Wooden, the 7 Principles That Shaped His Life and Will Change Yours. And Pat, I know we've had you on many times before. I know it's been too long since we've had you on, but congratulations on another great book.
Thank you very much. This is really a book about John Wooden's father. In 1922, John Wooden graduated from a little country school in central Indiana. His dad was a farmer, not formally educated. But upon graduation, Mr. Wooden, the father, wrote out 7 life principles and handed them to his son and said, "John, you live by these, and you'll do well in life." And 12-year-old John Wooden took that paper and folded it, put it in his wallet, kept it there his whole life, and lived his life by those principles, and never stopped giving credit to his dad, and publicly acknowledged him, literally till the end of his life a year ago. And I was always just fascinated by that relationship that arguably the greatest coach of all time had with his dad. So the book, it takes each one of those principles. We do a chapter on each one of them, and I had a wonderful time writing it because I think that what John Wooden learned in 1922 is really relevant into the 21st century, and we just wanted to make this book available to dads and granddads and kids as well, so they could really study what made Coach Wooden work his life so well and try and do the same thing.
Well, Pat, I think one of the great things about, father-son relationships, that it's one of the shortcomings that we have all across the country right now. I think it's probably one of the most important ingredients, and of course we've worked with so many people over the years, you and your jobs and mine that didn't have the luxury of having a great father-son relationship, and there's just nothing that makes up for it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Don, and we have a fatherless society that's kind of growing in our country, and I think it's a real crisis. And so really my message, I think, here on Father's Day weekend to your listeners is, Dad, step up and really take seriously this role of father, this role of dad. And pour your life into your children, teach them, build them up, encourage them, help them to live to their full potential. And just as Coach Wooden's dad impacted him so deeply, your kids are waiting for that. So I think your point is a good one, a very good one, and an important one.
And Bill Walton has always said, and many of course, Wooden's players with UCLA, I think Coach Wooden also put together the Pyramid of Success, which is probably based on these 7 principles. And to this day, even Bill Walton talks about how he inspired his life to live a better life. So it lives on, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he inspired everybody that came in contact with him. And yes, the Pyramid, which was written in the 1930s and is out there by the millions. I mean, so many people have that posted up in their office or in their locker room. Coach Wooden worked on that for about 10 years and really didn't have to modify it as the years went on. I think he really captured what success consists of. But it all started with his foundation that the 7-point creed did for him, planted by his dad. That really got Coach Wooden and his life, off moving in the right direction. And he never abandoned it. He died last year at 99 and never wavered in his approach. He never struggled with character issues or moral breakdowns. He lived a good, strong, consistent life.
Pat, as you said at the outset, we're talking about a young man that really grew up in the Midwest, and the lifestyle of the Midwest is just a little bit different than we know in the Northeast, whether it be Philadelphia or New York or Chicago. Well, in Chicago a little different as well, but you sort of have a different set of values if you're in Minnesota or Indiana, places like that.
Well, that's a good point. And he grew up on a farm, Don. Joshua Hugh Wooden was a farmer, and it's a working farm. It's still there, by the way. I was in that part of Indiana a while back when the farmhouse where Coach Wooden grew up is still there. The farm is still a working farm. It's fascinating to go back. I mean, nothing really much has changed. So he grew up with those Midwestern values, and I think that was obviously a great help to him. But more importantly, he had a teachable spirit, and when his dad said, here's something that will be helpful for your life, John Wooden paid attention. So I guess there's a message here for children as well. Listen to your dad, listen to your mother. They've been down the road. They know what they're talking about, and take their advice and apply it. So many children say, I'll figure this out on my own. But I have found if you take advantage of people who've already been down the road, boy, they can save a lot of dead ends in life for you.
Well, Pat, you've raised 19 children, 14 adopted, and of course, 5 of your own. So you know what you're talking about here, don't you, when it comes to Father's Day?
Well, I've been through just about every parenting experience you can. We adopted 14 children over a 10-year period from 4 foreign countries. So we've had homegrowns and children from South Korea, the Philippines, Romania, and Brazil. So we've seen it from about every angle. So probably anything a dad could go through, I have been through it. There's probably no surprises left for my life as a parent. But the kids are raised now. They're out of the house. They're on their own. The youngest is 25. The oldest is 39. They've produced 8 grandchildren for us so far, which is a pitifully low number, by the way. We should probably have 50 or 60 grandchildren by now, but we're certainly enjoying the 8 grandkids. In fact, we like the grandchildren more than the children at this point, I believe.
A lot easier to handle the grandchildren. All you do is spit it out.
Send them home when it's time to go home. We're enjoying them immensely. And literally, it gives you a chance to kind of reparent. I mean, a lot of the parenting things we learned on the first go-around, you can certainly apply with the grandchildren.
Pat, a lot of the folks don't know that you were really a baseball guy to begin with when you were down at Wake Forest, and I know that one of the boys was involved, I think, with the Cincinnati Reds. You still have some involved in baseball?
I do. My son Bobby now is with the Washington Nationals. He's managing their rookie club in the Gulf Coast League, which started up today on Monday, opening day at the Gulf Coast League. So
great.
He's got these young 18, 19-year-olds, some of the newly drafted players, many from the Dominican and South America. So this is his 12th year in organized baseball, Don. He spent 5 years as a coach in the Red system and has been with the Nationals now into his 7th year. So that certainly keeps my hand in baseball. I played baseball at Wake Forest, and the first 7 years of my career were in the Phillies organization as a minor league catcher and then running minor league teams for them. So that is my first love, and it's my starting point in pro sports 49 years ago this month. So hard to believe that the time has gone by so swiftly.
I was with Bill Parcells a week or so ago. We were chatting. We were down in Georgia, and we're chatting at the time. And the Phillies wanted to sign him originally. I didn't know he was a baseball player, but the Phillies wanted to sign him twice.
Yeah, he loves baseball, and he follows it very closely and has a background in baseball.
Right.
It's always interesting to think what might have happened. Chuck Bednarik, for example, way back on, there was talk that he was going to sign with the Philadelphia A's, back in the 50s or the late 40s and the 50s, and I was always intrigued. Could Concrete Charlie be hitting laser shots up over the roof at Shibe Park? Oh boy, it's fun to think about.
Well, Pat, you got a story you can tell about Don Henderson that's suitable for air? You've known him a long time, going back to the 76er days?
Don was a broadcasting legend in Philadelphia, and had those good pipes, still has them. I always enjoyed hearing the depth of his voice. But listen, that was the golden era of broadcasting in Philadelphia sports when you think about it. Harry Kalas came along in 1970, I guess, who became a Hall of Fame broadcaster. Bill Campbell, who everybody in the Delaware Valley grew up on, still hanging in there. Bill's in his late 80s, but there's not a sports fan in Philadelphia who didn't grow up with Bill doing Penn football or the Eagles or the Rays or the Warriors. Just a legend.
I was with Bill yesterday at the Bala Country Club. We had a Radio Pioneers luncheon just yesterday, and you're right. Bill's 85 years of age now, and still doing a little bit yet on KYW.
He's unbelievable. And then Byram Som and Big Gene Kelly and on it went. Matt Gucas Sr. and Les Kiter from the Palestra, and just legendary names. So Don was amongst a lot of who's who and Hall of Fame broadcasters, and those voices will live with us forever.
Don, he said it just like you wrote it for him. That was very good.
Well, Pat's always been very gracious. And going back to Coach Wooden, the two things that I always remember about Coach Wooden, when I worked with John Chaney for so many years doing Temple basketball as well, John had his own philosophy of the way to do things, never deviated, and I think that's the way you have to do it. You have to, if you're going to be a coach, or you're going to be an athletic director, or if you're going to be a general manager in pro sports, you have to be true to yourself. And I think that's the thing that John Wooden, everything from putting the socks on the right way the first day of practice to let's not worry about what somebody else is going to do, let's worry about what we're going to do. We'll worry about our team. Let everybody else worry about somebody else. I think that's pretty much the way he believed it, Pat.
Yeah, that's true, Don. He didn't do a lot of scouting. He wasn't concerned so much with the other team, but being personal best was important to him.
Right.
And he would challenge all of us, his players. It's your personal best that counts. Don't compare yourself to others. Just compare yourself to your personal best, and you'll be rewarded for that. He had some wonderful philosophies, and he stuck with them, and he didn't deviate. You're right. His practices were highly organized down to the split second. He didn't waste time. He was a teacher at heart. He never used the word coach, and he was always referring to himself as a teacher. I was teaching these young men under my supervision. I mean, that's how he would talk. And then after he retired, boy, he really started teaching then.
Right.
Through his speaking, through his books, through his private sessions with people. He just got a great delight out of teaching.
I'd be a little remiss if I didn't just ask you one question, which I thought was pretty much analogous to the great teams with the 76ers. What happened in this current championship? As you remember, when Julius Erving came in and George McGinnis played together, and George never really stepped forward in the playoffs, and I think he's going through the same thing that LeBron James is going through right now. They get so hot for one day, and then the writers and broadcasters, you think he didn't play in the series. You think he didn't play in the championship round.
And listen, his numbers were pretty good, Don. The amazing thing is he just took over the other series. I remember Chicago, and the other series, with 4 minutes to go, here comes LeBron, and you're sitting there watching and saying, this is unbelievable. He's just absolutely dominating and winning this thing by himself. But when he got to Dallas, he was unable to do that on a consistent basis. So, but John, the interesting thing, Julius Erving was the same way. We got Julius in '76,
right?
And we were frustrated. We couldn't get past certain. We went to the finals 3 times, couldn't get there. And every year, if we didn't win the title in Philly in that decade, it was a bad season.
Oh boy!
And they failed again. They didn't get it done. Julius can't do it. Boy, that was frustrating.
Yeah,
because everything has to work right to win. And then finally with Moses Malone, we won in '83, and it kind of relieved all that pressure. But I think LeBron's very much in that same position as Dr. J back in the '70s and '80s.
And I think Dallas was in the same position. I mean, this was pretty much a year that they had to win. I mean, the age of the club and so forth. And I thought it was a great championship run. And for Dirk, I was just happy that they won it.
Yeah, I did. Listen, give Dallas a ton of credit. They played beautifully together. Dirk basically said, "Get up on my back, guys. I'll carry you." And boy, was he unbelievable. It was a beautiful series, and I think it was great for the NBA. The ratings were off the charts, and it was just a marvelous season. Say what you want about the Miami thing, it sure kicked up a lot of interest, even though they were kind of the vilified enemy and nobody was rooting for them. But that's part of sports as well. The minute they made those moves, they suddenly became a target, and everybody got great delight in rooting against them. So it's been a very, very interesting NBA season, Don.
Well, I'll tell you, it was interesting when Dr. Jack put that Portland team together, and Twardzik and the Train and Walton and so forth. We thought we had a championship that year. We came back to Philadelphia, and all of a sudden, we're out of the championship.
Yeah, we won the first 2.
Right.
And looked like we were in great shape. Then went out to Portland and lost 2. And then they broke service in Game 5, and now suddenly they're up 3-2. And I relived that one a few times, Don. And now Dave Twardzik is our scouting director, and Lionel Hollins is coaching Memphis and doing a great job. And it's interesting to talk to those guys. And I'm still in touch with Dr. Jack. He's 86 years old. I was up at ESPN yesterday. His son Chris works at ESPN. I had a nice visit with him, and Dr. Jack at 86 is still hanging in there beautifully. It's quite a story.
Does he live down on the Jersey Shore still?
He headed up to Ocean City last week, where he'll spend the summer. He spends the winters down in Naples and does his ESPN broadcasting, and has a rich, full life, deep into his 80s.
Terrific. And Pat, let's get back to your book, because that's what it's all about today. We sort of varied off a little bit, but a lot of different sports come into play. It's amazing, but one thing about Mr. Wooden, obviously, we never knew his dad, but Coach Wooden certainly has lived his father's life.
No question. And he never stopped promoting his father and talking about him publicly and praising his dad. I've never seen a famous person like that who, deep into his 90s, is constantly giving credit to his father. I just found that unbelievable. Beautiful. And I've just never run into other people who do that so consistently. And as people read this book, they'll really understand why Coach Wooden was so indebted to his dad.
Published by Revell Books, Pat, and where's the best place to get it? Do you have a website you want to give out?
The book, it's in bookstores all over the Sarasota area. Amazon, always a great way to order books, and I love when your listeners hit my website. It's PatWilliamsMotivate.com, PatWilliamsMotivate.com, and my Twitter page. Don, you never thought we would end up with a Twitter page, did you?
Oh, my gosh.
And that's Orlando Magic Pat.
Don is one of the great Twitterers.
Amazing.
Well, Pat, we really appreciate you taking a few minutes to be with us today. And once Andrew gave us the heads up you're available, I know Don, being a friend of yours, we wanted to have you on our show. And thanks for being with us.
It's wonderful to be with you as well. And great to hear your voice, Don. You still got those good pipes, buddy.
Well, Pat, we had a lot of fun, and I'm down here on the Jersey Shore looking out over the Atlantic myself right now. I live in a little town called Seagirt, but out on the Jersey Shore in the summertime, and of course, fortunate enough to be in Sarasota in the winter, and you're in the sports capital of the world down there in Orlando. Everything that goes on around Orlando.
Well, thanks. Seagirt, home of Bob Virga. The great Duke sharpshooter of yesteryear.
You are exactly correct.
Thank you, Pat.
You guys have all the best to you. Take care, man.